Alright, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here. Welcome back to the channel. Got a whole bunch of good crypto news stuff for you today. The first thing I want to talk about is U.S. Congress mentions XRP, Ripple, and a whole bunch of other cryptocurrencies during a tech discussion. So the U.S. Representative Tom Emmer of Minnesota's 6th District, not of the 5th District, the 6th, very specifically, addressed a panel of payment industry leaders yesterday at the congressional hearing, Is Cash Still King? In a short exchange with Ms. Christine Tetrault, Senior Policy Counsel for Consumer Reports, Mr. Emmer mentioned Ripple and XRP, along with a variety of other cryptocurrency projects. Mr. Emmer was asking Mr. Tetrault if she was familiar with the high degree of technological innovation taking place in blockchain to date. He also mentioned Bitcoin, Ethereum, EOS, Monero, Zcash, the Plastic Bank, and M-Pesa, which I actually had to look up these two at the end. Plastic Bank is, getting money for plastic in Haiti or something. I'm sorry, I didn't take more than like 15 seconds. And M-Pesa is some mobile cash app. Citing exciting innovations in digital payment technologies, he also voiced concern that overzealous regulation may be stifling these innovative projects. You think? Well, the U.S. has some of the harshest regulation of cryptocurrency. I suppose you could argue China, etc. There are a few countries, but one of them is the United States, where ICOs are effectively illegal. You can kind of go through a process to do them in the United States, but in 2017 there was all these ICOs popping up, and then a lot of them actually got fined or basically shut down in the U.S. And if you ever noticed, if you were a U.S. citizen when you're trying to go to buy an ICO in 2017 or 2018, or I suppose anytime, it would say this is not available to these particular residents of these nations, and the United States was always one of them. So Mr. Tetrault, Ms. Tetrault, an expert in digital financial services, served on the Federal Reserve Steering Committee, a committee for the Faster Payments Task Force, and helped develop Consumer Reports rating system for peer-to-peer payment services like Venmo. Ms. Tetrault was familiar with XRP as well as several other cryptos and payment technologies mentioned by Mr. Emmer. I would hope that she is. Otherwise, where have you been living? The congressional panel also expressed concern over ransomware and cryptojacking attacks, as well as database attacks. It was, however, recognized that cryptocurrencies can be used to mitigate these cyber crimes, including data theft. And the XRP Army promoted these comments on social media as a congressional endorsement, which is a far cry from actually what took place. But hey, whatever you got to do. So XRP price has been on that steady decline since winter set 2 years ago. The Ripple company has a stockpile of pre-mined tokens, which effectively, now I'm kind of going off course here a little bit, but effectively makes it much more difficult. I always see all these XRP Army shills all over Twitter, especially Twitter. Twitter is rampant with them. And then there's YouTube, YouTubers that specifically talk about XRP. It'll just be XRP video after XRP video, literally 100 plus videos, all XRP, because they all get 10 to 20,000 views. So they essentially found a niche, whether they believe in XRP or not. They essentially found a niche to get a lot of views. And so it doesn't matter if their XRP is going up or down in price or anything like that, because they're getting a lot of views and they don't really care. So they're going to make it over and over and over. Makes total sense. But there is sort of a shilling going on, saying, oh, XRP to $100, XRP to $15, XRP to $10,000, whatever. The problem is that every month XRP releases 1 billion into the ecosystem, and now they don't always sell them. They haven't been selling them as much. Only half of them, like 500 million at a time. It's not a big deal, right? But they put 1 billion into the ecosystem every time. So essentially, the amount of liquidity and volume doesn't match the market cap. Now, I was talking about this on a live stream the other day, and it's effectively like, let's say you have, a coin with 1 million tokens, and you release it into the ecosystem, as an ERC20 token, and people start buying it, right? It's getting popular. And it started off at, 10 cents or something like that. And, so $100,000 market cap, and people put money and money and money into it, and there's no more. There's just 1 million of them, and they bring it up to $1. So now your market cap is worth $1, and effectively on the exchanges, it's worth $1 million as well, because people brought that up. It's sort of organic. And then all of a sudden you release you know, 9 million more of your coins into the ecosystem, and now it's effectively 10 million coins, but it's still only worth $1 million because people haven't put 9 million more dollars into the ecosystem to do that. So it's still just $1 million market cap, even though it says $10 million market cap, because each coin is worth $1 and there's 10 million coins in the world. But that doesn't necessarily mean that people put $10 million into your project to make it worth $10 million. And that's sort of like what Ripple is right now. Every month, 1 billion more go into the ecosystem, whether they release them or not. It's still in the market cap. It's still in the circulating supply of the coin, which effectively makes it harder and harder to actually pump up in price. So really, if you're an XRP fan, you have nobody to blame but Ripple themselves to why the price isn't really going up, because it's an extremely popular coin. We all have to admit that, but it's quite shady in how much they're producing. They really don't need to be producing this much, especially they don't have like any major partnerships. They're not really pushing forward very quickly, but still releasing them. So critics have also pointed out that XRP Ledger is missing 32,570 blocks, including the Genesis block, which means that the creation and chain of custody of Ripple's 100 billion XRP supply cannot be audited. You simply have to trust Ripple. Oh, Ripple. Moving on. Twitter adds Bitcoin emoji, and Jack Dorsey suggests Unicode does the same thing. So, in case you guys have seen, you can even see it on my channel. MrSotko Gaming on Twitter. Why MrSotko Gaming? It's an old name. But don't worry about it. You're not missing anything. Nobody knows about my Twitter, even though it's down in the description and millions of views. I don't know. Whatever. But anyway, you'll see it on my Twitter. You can even see it here if you type the the hashtag Bitcoin. It will make an emoji for you right after the Bitcoin name. So they added a new Bitcoin emoji on February 2nd and tagged Unicode, the consortium managing the character standard, in an apparent suggestion to do the same. Dorsey's tweet showed that now, whenever a Twitter writes the Bitcoin or BTC hashtag, an image showing its symbol appears next to it. So Dorsey's apparent suggestion that the symbol be added to Unicode text encoding standard was appreciated by the community. I appreciate that as well, with Lightning Labs co-founder Elizabeth Stark joining the request. After Twitter added the emoji to its platform, many cryptocurrency personalities tweeted it, including Tron founder and Bitcoin CEO Justin Sun. So I don't want to read the rest of the article. It's just good for Bitcoin. Now, this isn't huge or anything, but it's a step in the right direction for Bitcoin, and I enjoy it. So every time you type, again, hashtag BTC or Bitcoin on Twitter, you get a cool little Bitcoin emoji on the end of it. So, hey, fair enough, right? That adds some flair to it, adds a little bit of eye-poppingness to it. So, good job. Moving on. Interesting story here. Lawyers ramp up pressure to exhume Quadriga CEO's body. In case you guys have just totally forgotten, the QuadrigaCX exchange went under. It was a Canadian exchange. This man here was basically running it alone, for the most part, on a laptop from his house. On a laptop. Yeah, with no database or anything. This man was supposedly the only one with the private keys to basically everybody's wallets. And then one day, he's got Crohn's disease. And one day he decided to go to the country that not to bash it, but honestly, the one of probably 10, 20 countries in the world that you probably shouldn't go to with Crohn's disease. There may be even more than that. But India, India, you guys probably guessed that. India, and decided to build a children's orphanage. God, it's such a weird, brutal lie, or it's just a worse convenient case I've ever heard. A children's orphanage in India. What a nice guy. And then passed away from his Crohn's disease, probably from poor water or food. Then, hey, everybody's private keys are locked up and they can't get to the crypto. And it turns out that they were basically hiding a lot of their cryptocurrency on a different exchange, on a completely different exchange, as if you walk into a bank, here's my $50, would you deposit it? And they say, yes, sir. And then as soon as you leave, they look around the corner to make sure you're gone. And they literally walk around the corner to the other bank and say, we would like to deposit this $50. That was literally Quadriga CEO. That's not even an exaggeration. He was literally taking your crypto and then putting it onto a different exchange. And they were also illiquid and in a lot of debt as well. So, good job, exchanges. Anyway, the Miller Thompson, the court-appointed representative counsel for Quadriga's former users, contacted Bill Blair, the public official responsible for overseeing the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, asking him to clarify whether the law enforcement agency investigating Quadriga's 2019 collapse would exhume founder Gerald Cotton's body in an email to creditors posted on the law firm. The law firm first requested the RCMP exhume an autopsy last month, asking the agency to both confirm Cotton's body is indeed in the grave in the first place, as well as determine the cause of death. Cotton's demise precipitated the exchange's eventual transition into bankruptcy, which was basically already, they found out that it was basically already bankrupt before his death. So it kind of made sense that he was giving his dogs $100,000 and buying a ton of stuff for his wife and himself, and then him disappear to India, where you can notoriously disappear and buy a death certificate as long as you have the money. So again, there's like a double-edged sword here. On one end, I hate to like rip on a guy who may actually be dead, who may have gone to India. It's so hard for me to say this. Who may have gone to India while running a bankrupt exchange with the only private keys on him on a laptop. That only he knows, that he was basically taking your crypto and putting it onto a different exchange, and then went to India to build an orphanage, which is a great thing, and then died, right? I hate to say that. I hate to rip on a man who did that, right? But at the same time, that's the shadiest thing I've ever heard. So can't blame me. So they are trying to exhume his corpse. They're trying to do that, the grave, if you will, and to see if his body's actually there. And if his body is there, did he die? What did he actually die from? Which I don't suppose matters. I think it actually more matters is if there's actually his body there. Whether he was murdered, well, I suppose that would matter. But, it doesn't matter as much because either way, can't get to the private keys. And we realized, hey, there's not much crypto here to begin with. It's all on different exchanges. But I thought that was interesting, and that I thought that should have came about, actually a while ago. The suggestion. It was actually last month it was suggested, but I figured that should be suggested like right away with such a high crime and such a high amount of money missing. But fair enough, they're getting around to that. So I'll keep you guys posted with that in case that ever actually happens, to see what the news is from that. Coin market cap. 9,286 Bitcoin. We were at $190 Ethereum, so we're starting to chug our way back up. We're always seeing these little losses here and there. You can see from the just the little yellow chart lines, but the bullish aspect of people is pushing it up and up and up. Even XRP is going up. It went up 2 cents in the past month or so here. So congratulations, XRP owners. That's 2 cents. Don't spend it all in one place. $69 Bitcoin, or Litecoin rather, if only Bitcoin was back at $69, right? But that's about all I have for you guys. Nothing too special going on CoinMarketCap. Kind of trading sideways a little bit. Everything kind of in the red. A lot more, most things in the red, but not too big of a deal. Tezos way up, being fostered by Coinbase. Oh man, people were loving that Tezos. So much fostering going on. What does it even do? You don't know. It don't matter, right? Tezos. Fostered by Coinbase. But that's all I have for you guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff. My social media in the description below. Go check it out. Go check out my Twitter. You'll be like the first person to see it. It's crazy, right? You'll be like the first person. You'll be like a pioneer with a flag and like some, some like leather clothes on, with Sacagawea next to you, putting it in the ground like a flag, in Oregon or something. Go check it out. You'll have a good time. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.